Hey, good morning, and thanks for coming back to the channel. Uh, this is going to be kind of a summary. The big message is the Second Amendment is winning. Since the New York uh, Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin being um, the law enforcement folks in the state of New York or the city of New York, that Supreme Court decision was formidable. But the main thing that it did a couple things, and it's making the anti-gun people crazy because it's blocked off anywhere that they think they can go. Now, prior to that, um, governments, both federal, state, and local, could come up with anti-gun laws using a balancing approach. That is, yes, you have a right, but dead babies. Yes, you have a right, but kids are getting shot in school. Yes, you have a right, compelling public safety, right? So it balanced your constitutional right against something that the government felt was more important. What the Supreme Court decision in Bruin said was there's nothing more important. Government, a compelling argument has to be so huge and has to be based on the text and the history of the country and of the amendment that they can't come up with anything today that sticks. So all of the annoying anti-gun things are falling, and it's going to take a while, a year or two. Give you an example. In California, the uh, magazine ban is getting ready to take a dirt nap probably before December of 2022. That's this year. Well, when that happens, it takes out the whole Ninth Circuit. Hawaii, state of Washington, state of Oregon. You get the drift. And as California falls, so will New York, the state of New York, and vice versa. So you have a big deal. All of a sudden, the state can no longer arbitrarily prevent you from exercising your right to keep and bear arms. Arms is more than guns, by the way. So you can start to see some knife laws start falling as well. Um, the assault weapons bans that are out there in various states and municipalities are going to fall next because there's no rational reason for that. It's the balancing thing. Well, we know you have a right, but people misuse these to kill other people. Well, then put the criminals away. Don't you cannot take away a right because some bad person does a bad thing. That's the gist of it. Now, to show you how crazy the anti-gun people are, in Nassau County, New York, uh, they have this whole list of, because now with the anti-gun people saying, well, yeah, you have a right to carry in public, but we're going to make it so hard to get a permit that you're just going to give up. We'll give it to you, but you have to do these things. They struck down the good cause, so they replaced that with good character. Well, that's going to be the next thing to go down, the good character thing, because that's subjective. There's no measure for good character, really. So that's going to be the next thing to fall, hopefully soon. But in those states that were forced to issue, they're now coming up with something other than um, uh, uh, a compelling need. Because that was if you don't have a compelling need to say to a law enforcement person, then you can't have a permit. Well, I think you shouldn't need to have a permit at all because I live in the free state of Idaho and we don't have to have those things. And life is good, right? The next area, Nassau County. One of those lists of things, and it all has to be notarized, by the way. You have to have a notarized urine test. Yeah, a notarized urine test from an approved lab, approved by the state of New York. Now, that in itself is, I mean, that's a lawsuit has to happen with those list of things. But that's how crazy they're getting. That's how crazy they're getting. We can see an increase in the attempt to use this thing called sensitive places or sensitive areas, where the city of New York and the city of New York basically tried to make the entire city of New York a sensitive place, right? Because they don't want you to carry where the risk is the highest. Well, where is that? It's out in public, in crowds, on public transportation. You get the drill. Why? Well, as I said in an earlier video, the one thing bad guys fear the most is an armed citizen, especially a citizen they don't know is armed, and hence concealed carry. They're afraid of that because we as armed citizens do not have the same rules of engagement as law enforcement. There's only one thing: imminent, unavoidable threat of serious bodily injury or death, period. If that's the case, you shoot them in the face and they don't come back. They don't go on probation. They don't get bail. They don't go to jail. They don't even need to get the bracelets put on them. They're dead right there. And that's how it's going to be. And that's what it needs to be. Because what then will happen is the bad guys will have to ask themselves the question, especially these young warriors: do I want to die today to steal a car? Do I want to die today to go running amok through a store and shoplift? Do I want to die today because I'm feeling some kind of way and I just want to rob somebody? They will be forced to make that decision. On the other side, you have elected officials and law enforcement that says, New York City, you don't need to have your own gun to be safe on the subway because we just hired 200 more cops. Well, unless you're going to have a cop in your pocket, unless you're going to have a cop sitting next to you all the time, you are still going to be your own first responder. If that's true, then you don't need as many cops. This is not a defund the police argument, but it just says stop hiring cops under the belief that somehow that's going to reduce crime. That will only happen if you have a cop on every corner armed. Well, I mean, is that the kind of country that we want? So every corner you see a cop, somebody armed. Now that's bad, because then you have a lot of government armed goons out there, and it's hard enough to get actual soldiers, let alone cops. So they're saying we're the police, will protect you. First of all, there's no legal compelling reason for them to do that. So you're your own first responder. That's one of the reasons they don't want you to be armed in public transportation, because all of the stuff, especially the panhandlers, especially where panhandling is really aggressive. Where is that? New York City. BART, San Francisco. Max in Portland, Oregon. We have people that they will just harass you and they will threaten you. And some will say, well, gee, poor people, they have a mental disability. We're citizens, we're civilians. I don't give a shit about your mental state. I'm not a psychiatrist, psychologist, or social worker. I just want you to leave me alone, don't touch me, and don't threaten me. because you won't get a second chance. And that's the consequence of you not taking your meds. You see what I'm getting at? We have a right to protect ourselves, not analyze or psychoanalyze or treat some other person. We don't have those rules of engagement. We're not cops. So to come back to the beginning, we are winning. The Second Amendment is winning. The anti-gun people are beside themselves, trying to find ways to stop that. But the genie's already out of the bottle. And they don't have anywhere to go now. So there will continue to be craziness. That they put out there, and those craziness things will continue to be shot down. So who knows where this will go federally, but from a local point of view, you should start you should start seeing some sunlight out there, where you live. So I'm going to let you go. Have your coffee if you haven't already. As always, thanks for watching. And wherever you can, carry on.